Jai452 back again inside the land of cosplay, rummaging around and seeing what we can find on Inside Cosplay. Joining me this week is my very special guest, the one and only 50 Shades of Cosplay.
Spider-Man!
Hi 50, how are you today?
Pleasure to be on the show, man. I'm doing good.
Awesome. So we're just going to jump right into the thick of things, and I'm going to start by asking you, when did you first start cosplaying?
So, my first cosplay at a con actually came while I was in college. It was, I think 5 years ago now. It was the Star Wars Celebration. I had never heard of a con, maybe outside of the San Diego Comic-Con. Comic-Con was not a thing to me back then. I was actually something of a frat boy, believe it or not. So when my girlfriend begged me to go to a Star Wars convention, you know, I was not hesitant. I was a nerd. I loved Star Wars. I loved the prequels, which was a big arguing point amongst some of my peers. So I consider myself quite the Star Wars buff. We went. And day one, we didn't go in costumes. I didn't know there was a costume to go in. But even approaching the con, you see stormtroopers in full armor, Darth Vader walking around with his cape billowing in the wind. And by the way, this is Orlando, Florida. It's hot here. It's very hot. So mad props to the people who were doing this. And you get onto the con floor, and there's the dead ringer for Mace Windu. You see people in like the Jabba the Hutt, like rolling around. It's insane. It blew my mind. So while we were there, we found a booth that was selling your garden variety Halloween costume, Anakin and other Jedi robes, and I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm doing this. So I bought an Anakin, and I came back the next day. And she did not. She was all conned out. And I came back with another friend, and I mean, the second I donned that character, I say you put on a character when you're cosplaying. You're not putting on a costume. You're putting on a character. And it was incredible. Day one, I'm amongst my peers. But day two, I was really with them. You know, you are...
We will be right back. Sorry.
Yep.
And we're back. So you were telling us a little about your second day at a Comic-Con. So what was that like?
Yeah, so it was second day, Star Wars Celebration, and when I put on that character, which when you're cosplaying, you're not putting on a costume, you're putting on a character, I never felt so immersed in my biggest fandom. I felt a part of the Star Wars galaxy, the Star Wars universe, and it was incredible. And walking around the con and getting photos with Master Obi-Wan, you know, it was insane. So I was absolutely hooked, and from my standpoint, you know, I'd never known that this much of a Star Wars fandom existed. I never knew that there were people who took the time and effort and, you know, built their costumes. Some people had original characters. They were just like, oh yeah, this is my idea of like it was great. It was amazing. And the attention to detail, it was something else. And I've gone to Star Wars Con since, Star Wars Celebration since, in my new Anakin, and it's just incredible. It really is. So after that, it was MegaCon, which also comes to Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people start with the two biggest cons in their area, but I did, and since then, you know, I've had my eyes open, looking for other cons on my radar. Thank God, living in Orlando, Florida, you know, we have a lot of South Florida cons, a couple of North Florida cons. Dragon Con in Atlanta isn't that far away.
Do you know the worst of it? I have a few friends that are near either Orlando, Florida, or live in the Florida area. And I swear, I am so jealous of all the cons that you guys get to go to.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
If I ever get the chance to go abroad on holiday, I'll just go to Florida and I might consider just not coming back. Just so I can go to Comic-Cons every, like,
Careful,
weekend.
our summers are rough here.
Our winters are rough here in the UK. So bring it.
Listen, this past week we had a high of 91.
Do you know what we had yesterday?
Our winters are rough because they're that warm.
Do you know what we had yesterday? -5.
Oh my god. No thank you. No thank you.
I know. So, as opposed to disputing weather, because we could sit here and do that all day, who or what inspires you to cosplay? So we've kind of covered you were kind of inspired by just being around one fandom to get into the cosplay. Is there any particular people that inspire you to get into cosplay even more than what you currently have, kind of thing?
So, currently my biggest inspiration to keep cosplaying and to do bigger and better cosplays, look her up, Darth Smalley. So my girlfriend, she's something else. She pushes me to do bigger and better things. I mean, I was okay wearing this little Halloween knockoff, and until she was like, no, like, we can do better, we can do more realistic. She's the one that pushed me to start putting on makeup on some of my cosplays. Anakin has a scar, so now he wears the scar. Hawkeye has a little guy liner, and I've never put in contacts. I have good vision, so I've never had to touch my eyes. The first time I put on eyeliner, oh my god, I was such a weenie. I had to take shots of tequila to stop flinching. It was insane. But no, seriously, like, she was the one that said, "Hey, do you know you look kind of like Jeremy Renner? You should do Hawkeye." I was like, Hawkeye's one of my favorites. Hawkeye's the most unsung hero of the Avengers. Dude has good vision and can shoot a bow. But, like, you know, people don't know, like, Hawkeye's deaf. Hawkeye, he's a really interesting, dynamic character for someone who doesn't have special powers. Holds a team together, you know? So she really pushed me to start doing some of my other favorite characters and into different fandoms, and, you know, wherever I go, she's right there. She's the Black Widow to my Hawkeye, you know? She does the scar for my Anakin. She's the Poison Ivy and or the Harley Quinn to my Nightwing and my Captain Boomerang. So, yeah, she definitely is my biggest inspiration to keep cosplaying and cosplaying bigger and better things each time.
You were just mentioning there about somebody who has no superpowers whatsoever. And I'm going to just point this out. Also has no superpowers whatsoever.
Oh, it's like a little Robin Hood. I don't know who that is. He's like a green version of Hawkeye. Wonder where they stole that one from.
Well, we could sit and dispute that as well.
No, Green Arrow is awesome. Some people love his show. I don't like anything the CW cranks out. DC does animated movies very well. I just saw Gotham by Gaslight.
Oh my god.
They do comics and they do animated movies very well.
I've seen Gotham by Gaslight as well, like the movie, and I've had the best fortune to read the comic book. Like,
oh yeah?
I read the comic book years before I ever saw the movie, obviously, because the movie's a recent thing. And the movie is nothing like the comic book. A lot of characters that appear in the movie are not in the comic book. But it doesn't anger me, because, like, you know how some, like, true fanatic fans will be like, oh, the comic book didn't have this character, and this character. It doesn't matter. You know, like, I was watching like I said, the movie, and I'm like, oh, Catwoman's in it. She wasn't in the comic book, but she fits. You know,
right.
As does Poison Ivy. You know, so it's nice seeing that kind of almost favourite-like characters brought into the movie because they're fan favourites, you know.
Absolutely. And you know, Gotham by Gaslight actually inspired me and Darth Smalley. to do we're going to a Renaissance fair next month, and I was like, what if we totally did, like, Renaissance fair Avengers?
That would be
So
amazing.
so we're gonna put together a little Renaissance fair, Hawkeye and Black Widow, and that should be a lot of fun because they can fit for the period, you know?
Yeah, I personally like superheroes that are extremely flexible and can fit into any timeline.
Oh yeah.
Same with villains as well. I'm not going to exclude the villains. Like any villain that you can be flexible with. I mean, a lot of superheroes and villains that we see or characters can be very one-dimensional. They only fit into a specific timeline. Like if somebody's doing, I want to say, a Hercules one, it's a very ancient Greece. Or if you're doing, and I'm going to show my age here, but if you're doing a Xena warrior princess, again, very specific. You know.
That was my jam back in the day.
Yeah, or if you're a Star Trek fan, if you're a Star Trek fan, you're a very much in the future type of person that's in a very one-piece suit. You know?
Well, listen, there are some people who get very creative with what they do, and I mean, gender bending was only the tip of the iceberg, but you see all of the samurai armor Star Wars things now, and that is just amazing. So
it's great seeing all that kind of creativity come to a head. And while we're on the subject of creativity, you've mentioned that your girlfriend is somebody that inspires you, that pushes you to like do bigger and better things. Is there anybody that you follow on social media that also kind of slightly does the same thing?
yeah, so I actually had the great honor of meeting one of the people I've been following for a long time at DragonCon. Bumped into Jim Cosplay, Jim_Cosplay. If you're not following him, check him out. Some people they craft their own costumes. Other people, it is their body that they craft and kind of buy a few knickknacks here and there to fit it. Jim Cosplay does both, and he does both very, very well. But on top of all that, when you start following someone on Instagram, some people are just about their art, but he goes a little beyond that, and he'll show, you know, he does have a family, he does have kids, he's a father, he's a husband, and he's not shy about admitting that sometimes it gets difficult to juggle a life and a hobby that is really, really time-consuming and soul-consuming to an extent. So it really inspired me to like, and he's
Awesome.
never lets it get to him. He's very, very optimistic, very cheery kind of guy. Again, I was starstruck when I met him at Dragon, which if you've ever been to Dragon Con, it's a blur. So yeah,
It's funny that you should actually mention that about parenting and cosplay, because there's a few cosplayers that I have interviewed that are parents as well as being cosplayers. One of my more recent interviewees, Tunafel, who you can actually catch up with on the wonderful website of iGameOnline.net, shameless plug. She is a single parent who is a cosplayer as well, and she does a very amazing Link from The Legend of Zelda. And she does struggle with the life of being a single mother and dealing with her child, but also then going to cons and making all these amazing, and I really do mean amazing cosplays. Like, she has her own light up Navi that is connected to her costume but also kind of separate from it.
oh, that's insane.
And I think I've mentioned to you before, I was very fortunate to interview a man called Titan Cosplay.
Oh
who
yeah,
recently, at the point when I interviewed him, which is probably like a year now, recently at the time when I'd interviewed him, became a father. So he was a little apprehensive about being in costume around his baby girl, because he wouldn't know what kind of reaction she was going to have. And he does do big scary type of cosplays like Sabretooth from the X-Men and Killer Croc, and if you guys have seen his Killer Croc, it is amazing. Like, I remember seeing his Killer Croc before the Suicide Squad movie came out. And then when I seen the Suicide Squad movie and saw their version of Killer Croc, I was like, they should have just contacted Titan Cosplay, because his cosplay is so much better than what we got in the movie. It's more believable.
I wasn't crazy about our direction of, you can rewrite a villain, but that was something, all right.
Yeah, I think you can, in terms of how a villain is portrayed, you can rewrite it, but how they look is something completely different. You can't essentially take that back. And the same goes for any character in media. But let's move along from that, and I'm now going to ask you, what has been the most challenging cosplay to date that you've done, both from the making of the costume and the acting side? So let's talk about the making of the costume first. To date, who or what has been the most challenging?
So, very easy answer. In fact, he was so challenging, he missed his debut.
Oh.
So we have a convention here in Orlando. It comes twice a year. It's called Spooky Empire. Mm-hmm. It's around Halloween. There's one in April, and it's very horror movie and fear centric. Spooky Empire. The name says it all. So I thought, who to do but the king of fear himself, Scarecrow. I wanted to do Scarecrow, and while I'm not super crafty, I am very imaginative. Mm-hmm. So I kind of thought of a way to, through a little research too, get an e-cig attached to an aquarium filter and kind of like house it on my forearm and use it as the fear gas. And I wanted to, handcraft the spookiest, the burlap mask that he wears, go a little away from, the cartoon. I love the cartoons, but it's a little cartoony, and the mouth moves with him, and the hat, no. So I found the Arkham Asylum one, where he's got the glowing eyes and the glowing mouth. So I found a way to make it look like my eyes were glowing and my mouth was the bright orange beneath the mask, and it ended up coming at a hard time because I just got a new job, which is awesome. So I'm super busy. Finally in a management role, I'm doing interviews 7 days a week. We're prepping to take over this new property where I work, and ended up taking a lot of time away from my cosplay. Thank God I had Darth Smalley, who was really, really coming in big and helping me out, and she was trying to craft that mask on her time, but also work on her cosplay, and we ended up not having it ready in time for the con, which was a big drag. But these things happen. I mean, listen, Jessica Negri just missed KatsuCon. If that can happen to her, it can happen to anyone.
Exactly.
So I'm, I don't.
It's something that everybody kind of struggles with, because I was mentioning to you pre-interview that I'm looking to do a Starfire cosplay. Mm-hmm. And it would be a gender-bent version. It's something that I'm constantly putting on the back burner, because I know that I'm going to need to show a decent amount of skin. So I want to tone myself down.
Starfire is not known for being very conservative with her outfit.
She's not exactly modest neither. But I found a very particular costume that I'd like to do that is Starfire orientated. And I feel as if I could make a costume that would be acceptable enough to me. But what I was saying to you was I would need to learn how to use body paint. I'd also need to learn LEDs for the costume itself, because I would like a kind of light up hand part. So what it all boils down to when you really think about it is time, money, and do I have the knowledge and skills to do this? So doing all of what we can in a costume, or when it comes to doing costumes, I think we as cosplayers always overreach what we can actually achieve.
Our imaginations are often bigger than our abilities, for sure.
Yeah, but
what?
That's not always a bad thing, though.
Get in touch with the cosplay community, because you say you want to do light up features. Mm-hmm. LEDs on a con floor may not actually be the best option, especially because you're in a very lit environment. For a photo shoot, maybe, but there's always Photoshop. There is a very incredible Sub-Zero cosplayer who does the ice attack, and instead of using complicated LEDs and everything, he has blue. It's reflective tape. So he'll hold the little ball
right
between.
Back, guys. So you were mentioning the Sub-Zero cosplayer that makes his own kind of ice attack. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so what he did was, instead of doing LEDs and complicated electronics, he has reflective tape. Blue reflective tape that he puts on a little styrofoam ball, and he has it attached to, like, fishing line, so he'll hold it, he'll suspend it between his hands, and when you take a photo of him, he says, turn on the flash. So when the flash hits that blue reflective tape, it lights up. So you don't need a powerful LED or lights and batteries hidden up your forearm, because, I mean, you're Starfire. You don't have a lot of place to hide these things. Do a little ball of reflective tape that you hold, and just tell people, hey, when you take a photo, turn on flash, and it'll look really cool.
Awesome. Again, on the subject of Starfire, and kind of touching on slightly what we've mentioned before in people that we follow on social media, I would really need to try and get myself into shape for that. Now, I know a lot of cosplayers will say cosplay is not about what size you are in terms of your body shape. You know, you don't have to be a size 0 to cosplay. But
hey, some people spend as much time crafting their costume as they do their body.
Exactly.
I think that's absolutely, while not essential, it definitely helps to hit a character, you know?
Mm-hmm. But I honestly think there are those types of cosplay characters that you do that definitely demand you be in some form of shape. Because, like, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and I was saying I'm not sure which cosplay to do next. And he said to me, oh, you could do Nightwing. And I'm like, no. Just no. He's like, oh, why not? And I'm like, well, one, I do not have the same body type as Nightwing, and I have not been a gymnast for most of my life, so I'm never gonna have that. And he's like, oh, but you have, like, he said to me, okay, you've got the same kind of posterior as Nightwing, and I'm like, in order to do Nightwing, I would need ass pads that would shove my ass up and in. You know,
but on the plus side, when you do Nightwing, you got to make all of the jokes about sending people dick pics.
This is true.
Plus right there.
This is true.
For those of you what his name is Dick Grayson, so
who don't know, and if you don't know, how dare you? You know, like, how dare you be on my channel if you don't know that? But I think it is for the same for a lot of characters. There are characters that you feel sometimes you need to be in a certain amount of shape for, which is understandable. But at the same time, guys, cosplay is all about interpretation, how you see the character. You know, you, like we've said, you don't have to be a size 0 to cosplay as Princess Peach or insert skinny female character here, you know, or male character here, or whatever. You could be size XXXXXXL and still get away with it.
that's what everyone.
So we've spoken about the kind of making of a costume side. What about the acting side? Like, to date, which one has been the most challenging for you to, like, roll into?
Okay, so Captain Boomerang comes with the Australian accent, mate. You gotta keep it up for a long time. And, you know, that's, for an American, sometimes hard. But there is one thing I'll talk about that's tough about sometimes staying in character, or sometimes portraying a character you love.
Mm-hmm.
and this is one of the most painful things that you're going to get in cosplay. Someone's going to call you by the wrong name. I have there's a cosplayer that I follow. She's local. I see her at a couple of cons a year. She runs her table. She judges the contests, and I've bumped into her at maybe the wrong time once. So she was in a kind of a mood, and she's like, well, like, this person's costume wasn't like that, and she was being a little grumpy. I was like, whoa, I follow you, and I never thought you would be this kind of grumpy and judgmental in person. I mean, you are a judge, so I'll let it slide. But the second time I see her, she'll really excited to see me, and I was like, oh my god, you recognize me. I'm not going to drop names right now. I was like, oh my god, you recognize me, and we only met once before, and I was like, oh hey, oh my god, like so glad you're free. It's great to meet you. And she goes, yeah, no, so good to see you too. And oh my god, Red Arrow is my favorite of the Arrow family. And I'm like, I have this big Avengers logo and like clearly Hawkeye, and I was like,
do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Some people
what?
Can't tell the difference.
They see a bow and they're like, hey, you're Green Arrow.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the most like painful. You meet someone who you actually follow and you actually like admire their cosplays, and then they're like, "Hi, Red Arrow." Why did you say that?
I'm sad to say I've never had that happen. I've never had it happen yet. But I tell you, if I'm cosplaying as a DC character the day that it happens, I will be correcting that person so harshly on the spot that it will become legendary throughout all Comic-Cons.
Oh, I cannot wait to see that on your page when you post me correcting someone for calling Starfire
character. So yeah, that I can understand the voice thing, because I often come across that when I'm doing various gender bent cosplays, and it's not easy. Even though I do have a very effeminate sounding voice, it's not easy to always get that tone that a previous character actress has used.
You can make a cosplay your own, make a character your own. So, I mean, if you're trying to fit a mold, that's one thing. But if you want to make it your own, if you want to make, male Starfire, do male Starfire however you want.
See, the funny thing is about Starfire, a lot of people say I already speak like her, and I'm like, do you mean by the accent? And they're like, no, the way she speaks. Like how she injects the into general conversation where not the is not needed. And I'm like, oh, I see.
Although, you know what, I'll give you maybe her personality you have down, where you say posterior instead of ass. She's very careful about the words she says, and yet she'll still stumble into an awkward situation.
All the time.
So,
all the time.
I love Starfire.
One character I think a lot of people can sympathise with is when you try to do Harley Quinn. Because Harley Quinn, although she might seem like a really easy character to do voice-wise, is really not. Unless you're going for the Margot Robbie interpretation, which, granted, is so much easier to do. But if you're going for a Tara Strong or Arlene Sorkin version of Harley Quinn, and it's predominantly Arlene Sorkin, because we spoke about the original Batman series earlier. Those are not easy to do because Arlene has a very distinct voice, and it's that kind of New Jersey accent as well.
And Tara Strong is, I mean, she's such a phenomenal voice actress. Who, by the way, I can't wait to meet at I think it's Florida SuperCon coming up, so that's just another South Florida. Right? Can you just come visit already?
Yeah, can I? when you meet her, you have to ask her how Toot and Clara are getting on.
How who?
Toot and
her.
Clara.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a subtle hint for people who are fans of Tara Strong. If you know what that show is, where Toot and Clara are involved, stick it in the comments down below. In Tara Strong, she's such a great person as well. Like, she, I think, has done Comic Cons for multiple years, and sometimes she actually appears in costume at them, which I think is fantastic. She'll appear as somebody that she's voiced, which is great. And such a mind screw as well. Okay, so moving along from the acting side of things from cosplay, let's kind of open up that question a little bit more, and I'm going to ask you, in your opinion, what is the most difficult thing or character to cosplay as, both from the making of a costume and the acting side? And let's make it in regards to yourself to begin with, and something that you would advise other people to maybe seriously think about when they come to you and say, oh, I'm thinking about doing this character 50, what do you think? Do you think it fits me? But let's start with you. Like, what types of characters do you tend to seriously think about before even attempting?
So, I mean, you covered it when you talked about getting in shape for a role. I love the Stars, now on Netflix, series Spartacus. Mm-hmm. And I want to do one of his cosplay, or one of his outfits from season 4. Love the show.
What's the show that had Lucy Lawless and oh god, what's his name? The guy that was like Brendan Fraser's brother-in-law in The Mummy, the original Mummies.
Ooh,
he played, like, she played the lady of the house, and he was like...
It's got Jai Courtney in it, which is interesting because I knew, and then he's in season 1 or season 1, I think.
It is the same show because Jai Courtney was in Spartacus Blood and Sand, and so was Lucy Lawless, and the guy that I'm on about from The Mummy, that was Brendan Fraser's silly brother-in-law eventually.
Right.
So yeah, I know what show you're on about. Freaking amazing show, guys. If you've not seen it, go watch it.
It's incredible. But the costume I want to do is it's got a little leather armor, which, by the way, leather is I'm not gonna be the one working with it because I'm not that talented. And to get anything screen accurate, you need to find a leather maker, and you need to find someone, and time and money goes into it. And that I'm willing to invest, but in the meantime, I gotta hit leg day, and I gotta hit it hard, because it's got the torso piece, but then it's got the tiny little, there's not a lot going on, and then it's all a lot of thighs, and I am a very white boy. So it would require at least a spray tan and a lot of leg days between now and then. So that is one that I'm a little nervous about doing, but I can't wait to do at the same time.
Funny you should mention about the leather working. I'm going to show this off on camera. This is something that a friend of mine had brought back from Florida. And it is a leather bracelet. I know that the light's kind of glaring off it there. Now, it does actually have my real name on it, so I'm not going to be showing the front of it. But they were telling me that this particular leather bracelet was all laser carved.
Wow.
So they carve them, like all the kind of Celtic designs and such like, into them with lasers, and I thought, that's kind of interesting, because I never thought, like, I honestly thought a laser would just pierce leather, like it would cut through it like nothing else. So I was really kind of interested to see that. But it also kind of brings me on to the topic of a con that I was at recently, where I met a girl who was in complete elven, like, outfit, like a Lord of the Rings elven character. And it was her own character as well. And I'm kind of like scrutinising this outfit, and I'm like, it is so amazingly done, kind of thing. And there's pictures of her on my Instagram, guys, so you can go and check that out. she was in this kind of like leather bodice, so she obviously had the material stuff up top, and from basically her chest down to her waist, it was the leather corset. And I remember speaking to her as I was taking her pictures, and I'm like, how long did this costume take you to make? And how much of it is bought? Because I was looking at it and going, yeah, there's got to be some of this that's bought. And she's like, no, I made it all myself. And I'm like, get out. And as I got further on talking to her, she mentioned she used to go to Renaissance stuff, and we will be... Oh, we just had a little pause there. She mentioned that she went to Renaissance stuff, which I thought was amazing. She's been to Renaissance fairs, and she was very into LARPing and all that kind of stuff, so she was already primed for doing this type of cosplay. And the sheer fact that she had leather van braces on, and she made the corset, the whole lot, and I'm like, you're too good, get out of my sight.
And the attention to details and the work and the effort that goes into some of these people's cosplays.
It's insane. Yeah. I remember she was wearing ears as well. And it wasn't those kind of like cheapy dollar store ears either. It was the ones that sat on the top of her ear. And I looked at these very, very carefully, and I said, how long did it take you to make the ear molds? And she said, oh, only about 2 days.
Only 2 days.
And I'm like, only 2 days?
Yeah.
Yep.
But in terms of how long that entire costume took, I'm sure only 2 days is really only 2 days. But yeah, I know. Prosthetics that attach to your ear, those are cool.
In terms of the full costume, because I did ask her how long did it take to do the whole thing, and she said, oh, about 3 weeks. And I'm like, I hate you. And walked away from her. But no, seriously, she was an extremely talented girl, and if she's watching this, please do get in contact with me, because I would love to get you on the show. And such a polite person as well. So polite. I love it when people are so polite.
Mm-hmm. I love this.
So, in regards to the acting side, what's the kind of character that you tend to slide away from? Like we've spoken about the getting in shape for this particular costume. Is there any character from the acting side that you tend to slightly just put to the side and say, I need to do more research on that before I attempt it?
Absolutely not. No, so like Anakin, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're anything alike, but I love slipping into a persona that is not my own. I think Hawkeye and I are pretty similar, so that I almost walk around as myself. Captain Boomerang is a complicated anti-hero, but still it's fun. Nightwing, I think I could again stay almost myself, because he's not as emo as some of his iterations always. Where, I mean, listen, to date Starfire, you've got to be a little witty, a little punny. You've got to be a little bit of a dork, and I think that's
Starfire. Starfire either. Batgirl as well.
Oh yeah. So no, I think he's another fun, dynamic character who kind of breaks the Bat family mold of kind of like I'm a bat. Like, no, Nightwing is pretty cool, and he's a lot of fun. Maybe actually, if I'm shying away from a character, be Damian Wayne, because he's just so annoying. But also he's a child, and you know what? I try and cosplay around my age range, where, I mean, I think Anakin, I'm still a little older than, but I like Anakin.
I think Anakin's one of those characters that you can get away with it, because who's to say he isn't that kind of type of person, and with all the wormholes that kind of run around in the Star Wars universe, who's to say he isn't that much older now?
Yeah, and I've seen people do like an older Damian Wayne, which is cool. Like, I mean, the all the Arkham games, and they've got older versions of him, which is cool. But I did Harry Potter Celebration recently, and people wanted to go as Hogwarts students. That was the one time where I was like, you know what? I
No.
I'm not 16 years old anymore, so I know it's timeless. I know you can always like, oh, I'm a student, but I was like, you know what? Give me a couple of wands and a hood, and I'll call myself an aura or something. But so maybe I tend to shy away from cosplaying as a teenager.
Okay. So let's flip this question on its side again and say somebody comes to you and says, 50, I'm looking to cosplay a really extravagant character. Let's say something like Man-Bat. Okay?
Do it, especially if
Now,
that is not your character type. Getting to cosplay someone outside of your wheelhouse is amazing. And if you cosplay Man-Bat, what is the name of it? The
before,
AU where Superman is like Mexican and he's actually General Zod's son, and Man-Bat is the Batman. That if you can do that, Man-Bat, do that.
before you answer that, like, because you kind of slightly answered that, but let's say I come to you. Now, I've only ever done things that are fabric based. I've never done any armor work or prosthetics or anything like that. In this particular cosplay, the way that I want to do it, let's say I explain to you, I want to have working wings on my arms and a prosthetic face that I can hang stuff off of or reshape the nose or whatever. And I have no knowledge of any of this. How would you advise me on that particular front if I say I'm dead set, my heart is set on doing Man-Bat or some iteration? What would you advise me to do?
If your heart is set on it, you'll get it done. And again, the cosplay community is not one that guards its secrets closely. You'll find how to do it. I guarantee you, someone's done Man-Bat and they've posted a how-to tutorial on exactly how to mold your face into a prosthetic bat. And you know what? Actually, for something like that, this might sound like a bit of a stretch, but look a little outside of the purely cosplay community. Mm-hmm. I know some furries do not specifically giant teddy bears, but I've seen these. They go to the furry con and they're these eagle people. I actually saw them at Star Wars Con, and then a friend who went to the furry con sent me photos. And I go, oh my god, I met them at Star Wars Celebration. They were the eagle people, but with lightsabers, and I thought that was so cool. And then they're actually just furries, but listen, they made like beaks that work based on the hinging of their jaw. And so there are people out there who have the expertise, and they're not shy about sharing their secrets. So if you want to do a Man-Bat, there's a way to do a Man-Bat. Even if it's you know, you need to grow your own body hair and shave it off 10 times to glue on the individual pieces, like they did for Lord of the Rings, where it's yak hair individually glued onto the Hobbit foot. So listen, there's a way to do it. It might not be easy. You know, it's not going to be easy. Nothing you really, really want to do is going to be easy, but it will be well worth it.
Awesome. So let's talk about the acting side now. Let's say you know me as somebody who is very calm, wouldn't say buta, like wouldn't be kind of threatening or overly bearing or anything like that. That they're just very much within their own little space or box or circle or whatever. And I say to you, right, okay, 50, I want to do a character that is like Loki or the Joker. You know, somebody that is extreme, like one of those extreme characters, you know, that is very, very loud. And you know me to be very, very, very quiet. Yeah, me, quiet. What would you advise me doing in that sense? If I said to you, I want to accurately portray this character as they are in media. So how would you help me there?
So honestly, most of these cosplayers that you meet, the ones who make it their lifestyle to wear a mask, to wear another persona, they're nothing like the people they portray. I mean, once you put on that mask, once you put on that character, you become them. And listen, I know this one guy, Carnival of Fun, wears the full prosthetic Joker mask. He's gone. There's no more whatever his name is. He's the Joker now. once you really become a character, put on the character, um, let go of yourself, and just if you really love that character, you'll find it within you to really just get them out there. Let them take over.
Awesome. Um, let's talk a little bit about staying in character. Have you ever had a moment in time when you've been in character and you've gone through the majority of the con in character, and let's say you maybe have an interaction with another cosplayer or another person who's at the con, let's maybe consider children, where they've either been a little bit afraid to approach you, or they start crying if you're doing unnecessarily almost quote unquote scary cosplay, where you've had to break the character just to reassure them it's okay, I'm not this scary individual or this individual.
I love that you brought up children, or can we call them younglings? Because I am Anakin, and when people come up to me and they want their kids getting photos with me, I'm like, oh yeah, send the younglings to me. And they're like, oh fuck, we just sent our kid to get a photo with it. And I'm not shy about it. The kid maybe didn't see the scene, don't understand. Or sometimes the kids are like more Star Wars fans than their parents, but he slayed the younglings. And I'm like, come here, youngling. So, yes, I love staying in character specifically with children because I am Anakin, and I'm not shy about, posing for the parents' photo, like, your kid's about to get slain by Anakin.
Have you ever had a moment where you've had to break it?
You know what? So, I break character sometimes, because some kids are just too awesome to slay. But I've had like a clone trooper, a little child clone trooper run up. So I gotta actually stay in character for him because he's a clone trooper. So I was like, oh come on, like we need to join the 501st. We need to take down an AT-AT or something. So the kid will run over and we don't have to be Anakin slaying the youngling. Or one time I had a kid wearing a Darth Vader T-shirt. So I was like, oh, it's me on your T-shirt. I was like, this one's cool. He's okay. I don't slay this one. So, one girl though at it was MegaCon Tampa. Her mom was a huge Anakin fan, and her daughter was dressed as little Vader, and I gave her my lightsaber. First thing she does, she takes a swing at my hand. And I was like, no, I've only got the one good hand. And she just starts chasing me around the con floor. This little child. So I was pretending I was like a matador with her, where I was like whooshing my cape over her, and it was hysterical. So yeah, we completely broke character. She just kept chasing me around with that lightsaber all day.
It's good that you're having all those kind of really cool interactions with the kids.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
For me, that kind of thing it makes the cons so much easier. Because yourself, when you go to cons, you can sometimes be there for 5, maybe 7 hours, and they're draining. Like, a lot of people don't realize just how draining they are.
My last con that I was at in South Florida, actually, I was wearing Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some costumes come with complications.
Oh yeah.
Nightwing doesn't have pockets. Nightwing doesn't even have a front zipper. If you got to pee, you're taking the whole thing off.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, you know what? I better have my credit card on me and maybe even my ID. So I put it in my boot. It was almost immediate upon entering the con floor. We saw Cecil Baldwin, the voice of Welcome to Night Vale, And I was like, you know what? Let's get a selfie with him. So I, go to take my card out of my boot, and it's gone. So we immediately beeline back to the parking lot to retrace my steps everywhere I went, and I'm in a bit of a panic mode right now. Lost my ID, lost my debit card. So I'm walking back, and along the way, people are asking to take photos. And I'm like, oh God. But you know what? They're not having a bad time. It's not going to... My card's not going to blow away just because I take one more photo. So you know what? I dropped the angst, dropped the anger, dropped the fear. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, so me and Darth Somali as Harley, we posed for maybe 4 or 5 photos in heading back to the parking lot to look for my missing ID and card that we never found. But maybe I have it lying around here. But Florida SuperCon, who does the con, it was Paradise City. They ended up mailing it back to me a few days later. I had already canceled the card, but hey, didn't have to replace my driver's license, which was nice.
Yay.
So yeah, they are very draining. And I would say, if you want a photo of someone, you gotta understand. You know what? This is like in that movie with the guy who does the mall Santa, Bad Santa.
Mm-hmm.
If they're eating,
leave them alone.
Maybe don't ask them for a photo, because not every cosplayer is going to want to put on. Listen, when I do Hawkeye, I take my quiver off, I take my gauntlets off, and I undo the vest so I can breathe. Some cosplayers don't go up to them in the food court. Don't ask them for a photo, because they're going to have to put that back on, and sometimes you're going to get a snappy little response.
Do you know the worst of it? I've known people who have taken pictures of cosplayers as they're eating and posted that on social media, and for a lot of cosplayers that's extremely bad, because we are portraying that character, and 9 times out of 10 these are characters that quote unquote don't eat.
Well, listen, so, if I'm at Dragon Con, I actually I allowed people, because we did a little Avengers meetup at the food court. I was like, yo, yeah, call it the Shawarma Shack, because we're all like, our costumes are off, Thor's hammer's down, we're all just like, yo, just take pictures of us eating. This is Shawarma Shack scene, so this is the post credits. But you know what, Anakin, he's, I'm not drinking blue milk, so please don't take a photo.
Yeah, so that is just one thing, guys. Like, definitely go and ask a cosplayer for their permission to take a photograph. But if they're eating, or if they're...
Cosplay's not consent.
Exactly.
So
if they're eating or adjusting their costume or reapplying makeup that they've had on, let them do that and then approach them. Because 9 times out of 10, most cosplayers will be like, yeah, sure, I don't care, take a picture.
Yeah, but listen, when you see that guy with, the perfect prosthetics and, he's the armor on and everything, but like, look at his surroundings. See, is he talking to someone right now? Are his hands off his gloves? Is he texting right now? Just be aware. Don't let the spur of the moment get you too excited. Some people, you need to be respectful of their time.
Exactly.
I'll always throw on a gauntlet and I have a bow and a quiver. It's very easy for me, but I've seen some people who are just not about it.
All
and
right, so...
second to find my charger real quick. You're kind of... I'm getting low on battery.
Right back. Yeah, so let's kind of move on from there, and I'm going to say to you now, there are 2 types of Comic-Cons that we can go to throughout the year. There's the big once-a-year Comic-Con, so things like I can't think of any that are in Florida, I'm sorry. Big ones like for the UK would be your London Film and Comic-Con, your Collectomania, which I think is the London Film and Comic-Con, Capital Sci-Fi Con, and then there's your smaller, more local ones that happen every 2 or 3 months. For you, which one do you prefer going to more? Do you prefer the big once-a-year ones, or the smaller, more local ones? Or do you like a blend of the two?
Yeah, I'm actually finding that there's parts of each that have their own appeal. I mentioned earlier that I was very atypical in that I went to a huge Star Wars celebration as my first con, which is in Orlando once every 4 years. After that, it was MegaCon, which is every year in Orlando. It was recently bought out by another Canadian company, and they do it every year in Tampa now. So it's twice a year. But you know what? I found there's a little holiday matsuri I mentioned earlier, which is a fun little con. It's within one little hotel. Sorry, it's the Marriott World Center. It's not a little hotel, but it's all within a hotel. It's a very fun time. It's intimate. The first year I went, it was very much about anime, but it's kind of branching out now as more people discover it. It's almost like a mini Dragon Con, where Dragon Con is huge, maybe 75, 80,000 attendees sprawled out over Atlanta, which when you have cons this big, you really need the meeting space for them. Dragon Con has been going on, I think, 40 years, which, it started in Atlanta. Atlanta is by no means the convention destination that Orlando is. Orlando is the second largest convention center in the United States, and I think rivaling many of the other large ones in the world. Mm-hmm. The Atlanta Convention Center is consumed by this con, and then it branches out into another 4 or 5 hotels in the area. So it's very chaotic. It's fueled by alcohol, and it's fun for its own right. These smaller cons, Florida SuperCon, Holiday Matsuri, Paradise City, you end up meeting people there, and you get to see them a few times throughout the day because it is really a small and intimate gathering, and it's 2-3 days with the same little group of people. You get to see the whole show floor, and then you kind of do all the meetups. It's a good place to see panels sometimes, where you'll never make it to a panel at Dragon Con. You just won't. It's not a con to meet celebrities. It's not a con to find people who are paneling. It's almost not even a con to go to the show floor, because that's 2 blocks this way, 1 block up that way. You'll wait in a long line. You'll wrap around a building. You'll find out you're on the wrong floor. And no, it's a party con, and that's it. Anyone who says otherwise hasn't been. So yeah, no. Each con is special in their own right. I'm trying to get a room for Colossal Con in I think it's Sandusky, Ohio, at the Kalahari, which is a pool party con. So, awesome. I mean, yeah, I don't have any existing costumes that would work at a pool party con. So if you're not a pool party kind of person, don't go to Colossal Con. But I have 2 awesome cosplays in mind.
You kind of have one that you're working on at the moment that maybe would work at the pool? And that's your Spartacus one?
Well,
Spartacus hasn't
begun yet. Spartacus has not yet begun. And I actually contacted the leather maker, and they said it'd be about 12 months to make that entire costume.
Wow.
So I'm thinking of maybe getting one leather maker to do the chest piece and the little the armband and the calf guards would end up being another leather maker, and maybe that would cut it down to 6 months. But still, it'd be crazy expensive because leather is not cheap. But yeah, I know Spartacus. I wouldn't wear leather into the pool anyway, so I'm thinking of doing like a pool Deadpool. That would Deadpool party, and then a pool ready Nightwing, which would be a lot of fun. But again, I need to get into the con. It's like Dragon in that it's very sought after. So people buy out the hotel a year in advance, and then they sell spots in their rooms and stuff. So there's a room sharing group, and I'm in it, and we're trying to see what we can do.
So my next question, when you're at these events, what is the one thing, or getting ready to go to them, what is the one thing that you're most excited for, and the one thing that you either still kind of do on some level or used to find the most nerve-wracking. So let's start with the one thing that you're most excited for going to these events.
I just like getting into my character. Anakin, every time I put it on, is the same as the first time I put it on, where I can't believe I'm actually getting immersed into the Star Wars universe every time I put it on. It doesn't have to be Star Wars Celebration. I'll put it on Paradise City. I had so many people coming up. Met some awesome other people at the 501st booth through wearing Anakin. And they're really great guys. But honestly, meeting people and just kind of getting out there in the community is something that I never really thought was going to be my favorite thing about going to cons, but it very quickly became it. We're like a lot of friends now. I just went to a friend's birthday party. We met at Paradise City. He's local. He lives in Orlando. Peekapool Vince, very fun guy. If there's anyone who's like a dead ringer for Deadpool when you're in costume, it's that guy. So yeah, no, honestly, making friends through cosplay, seeing friends that I only know through cosplay at cons is awesome too. And then, you know, the rare celebrity sighting here and there. I've got a fun little story behind this bad boy, where I met John Rice Davies.
Wow.
And I told him, I met him, I stood in line, I said, hey, so I have your axe. And he goes, you have my axe? Like, quoting the line a little differently. And I go, yeah, but you know what? It's metal and it's not allowed on the con floor, so I couldn't bring it to get it signed. And he's like, you know what? He's an awesome Scottish accent. He told me to talk to one of his people there. We ended up talking. His line is growing ever longer. And we're just talking and we're shooting the shit. And he's like, you know what? Find the person, my agent, and, you know, tell them that I want to sign your axe. Okay. So a little while later, me and John Rice Davies are texting, and he's like, hey, come by my suite and let's hang out. The dude always dresses to the nines. Like, he's wearing this awesome suit, tie combo, and me and Darth Smalley have an event to get to later that night called the Margarita Ball. It's like a fundraiser for Kids Without Christmas. You bring a toy, you get in, have a good time, schmooze. So we're all dressed very nice, and we're hanging out with John Rice Davies, and maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, we're in there, and he's just telling us about, you know, the guys on set and how everything was, and talking about his new movies, and you end up in situations through cosplay that you never imagined would happen, and yeah.
All the time. It's funny that you should say that you met him, because I actually met one of his co-stars from The Lord of the Rings, and there's an actual funny story that goes with it, but I'm just very quickly trying to find the autograph picture I got. Where is it?
I would show you the autograph on the app, but
so,
you know, I have to kill you because my real name is on it.
It's not very clear. Oh crap!
Sam
Samwise Gamgee.
Nice.
Now, he was at a con that I was at, and I was like, there's no way that I can't go and meet him. But there is another picture, if I can just find it very quickly as well. Is the full body one?
And he's a star again. He's on Stranger Things now.
He is, and he's so nice as well. Before I actually went around and met him, I saw these two. Oh crap! My phone just does not want to work with me today. I saw two people in cosplay, and it was a man and a woman together, and I automatically thought, you know, it's two people in a Renaissance costume, or Renaissance costumes, because she was wearing one of those big flowy dresses, and it didn't dawn on me who they were until I spoke to them. And when I show you the picture, you'll be like, how could that not dawn on you? Here we are. Yeah?
Oh, okay. Strider and Arwen.
Uh-huh.
Aragorn and Arwen.
So it didn't dawn on me that's who they were. And it wasn't until I turned the corner and was like almost face to face with Sean Astin that I went, Strider and Arwen! Yeah! And he just kind of like looked at me. But it was the end of the day when I met him, so everybody was getting ready to go home. And I went up with the express purpose of giving him the iGame Online business card and telling him, hey, we do an online MERP series that's based within the time of the War of the Ring, and we'd very much appreciate it just if you get the opportunity to have a listen to it. And at the time I was dressed as a male poison ivy.
Oh my god.
Now, a male poison ivy in the middle of August. August is not a warm month of the year in Scotland. It's really not. And I remember just standing there absolutely freezing, waiting to speak to him, and this guy come up to me and he says, oh, I'm sorry, he's finished for the day, you'll need to come back tomorrow. And I'm like, I'm only here for one day, I just want to go up and give him a business card and leave. I don't want an autograph, I want nothing. Nothing. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you'll just need to come tomorrow. And he obviously, Sean Astin overhears all this, and he kind of like points at me and just kind of like motions me to come over. And I'm like, I just kind of smiled as I walked past the security guy. And I said to him, look, Mr. Astin, I honestly understand that you've had a very long day. You're probably extremely tired, hungry, and want to go and speak to your family over Skype or something or whatever. I want to, like, I've been here since 9 a.m. All I want to do is get this effing costume off and get something to eat. And he's, like, signing autographs with him the next day kind of thing. And he takes one look at me and he kind of, like, slightly glances at me and then goes back to it and he says, so what's your story then? I look down at myself, I look back at him and say, well, I'm what happens when Poison Ivy has a one-night stand. And that got them talking, and I actually got a free autograph out of that as well, because I was like fumbling around in my wallet trying to get money to pay him. He's like, oh no, it's free, just take it. I'm like, oh my god, you're the best. So Sean Astin, amazing guy, as are a lot of actors and actresses that you meet as well. They're just amazing people, and a lot of them can't do enough to help you out. Coincidentally, that very same day, there was a girl there from Game of Thrones, one of the Dawnish girls.
Oh, awesome.
And I got her autograph, but I had to pay for it. Now, the outfit I had on, it was like a vest, but it had vines going all the way down my arm that were real. And I had to obviously adjust them throughout the day because they kept getting like twisted and such like. And when I had to adjust them, I had to kind of like slightly push out my arm, like so. And after I'd gotten her autograph, I just kind of stood to the side to let other people in and kind of like fixed myself up. Some guy who I'm assuming is either her like handler or her boyfriend or her husband. I'm assuming boyfriend or husband because I've seen them kind of hugging later on in the day. He walks behind me and almost gets my hand right in his face.
Oh.
And all she could do when I'm apologising like nothing else was laugh at this whole scenario, and I'm like, obviously he's said something to her that's ticked her off. You know, because why else would you laugh at someone almost getting smacked in the face?
Yeah, no, cons are definitely something else. You get into some very, very interesting situations.
Definitely. Like, again, in that particular con, I was getting a professional picture done, and the cameraman said to me, okay, you need to look somewhat alluring. Yeah? And again, this is why I was saying about the weather. It was very, very cold that year. Somebody opened a door nearby, and with me not wearing much of anything, the cold air just hit me, and my body just went completely rigid. So I went from being in a very seductive pose to being like frozen solid kind of thing. And then I can just remember the cameraman screaming,
And Poison
"Shut
Ivy to
the
kill
door!"
That's
Sorry,
awesome.
what?
Poison Ivy to Killer Frost.
Yeah, in one fell swoop. Oh, there's another idea for a cosplay. Ba-dum. Okie dokie. So moving along, what have you found the most nerve-wracking about going to these cons? Is there anything you found nerve-wracking about them?
Yes. This bow that I use for Hawkeye is maybe like, I mean, you can't bring a real bow, so this is totally a fake bow. The quiver is made of the same material. It's so light, which is great because whenever you find other Avengers, you're like, oh hey, can I get a photo? And then all of a sudden you're hounded by 30 people trying to take your photo. You're holding the pose for 7, 8, 9 minutes at a time. Well, if that was a real bow, your arm would fall off. So it's great that it's light, but also when you go to a crowded con and people are bumping into your props, oh my god, you think they're gonna break every fucking second. And actually, I have had the quiver here. It broke on a con floor, and I taped it up. You can't even tell, which is awesome. But yeah, so that's the only real nerve-wracking thing is that and Nightwing was my first time. I have a bodysuit Nightwing. I'm still I'm having someone commission some like Nightwing armor, but it was my first time in a dance belt, and I first 3 comments on the con floor was like, "Oh hey, your dick is it's got a mini Nightwing going on there." I was like, "Okay, thank you for calling out my dick." So yeah,
I think that
was
again.
probably the only real nerve-wracking thing is I mean, girls can show as much as they want, and then the second a guy with a noticeable bulge walks onto the con floor, and you're wearing a dance belt, but there's nothing short of tucking that can get rid of that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's another reason why I don't want to do Nightwing. It's like, yeah, I just don't want to like run into that kind of issue.
I think when I do my armored Nightwing, it's not going to be a problem. But the bodysuit Nightwing is you're there, you're on display for the whole world. So there's no lines because the dance belt is padded, but you can't hide a bulge.
I think the same when it comes to a character like Deadpool as well, because obviously that would be a bodysuit. Any character really with a bodysuit.
Yeah, Deadpool's
I think
latex though. Deadpool is you've got a little those are real pants. So, but
a lot of Deadpools I've seen it's been.
Your Starfire is gonna be interesting. Let's just say that.
I think I'll show you after we're done how I might be doing that. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've got some concept stuff that could work for that. So when you've been at Comic-Con, obviously there is the cosplay competition that you can enter. Have you ever entered into it, and if so, did you ever win?
No, like I said, I like being with the people. I'm not fond of the idea of being stuck in a room for hours on end, being judged and waiting to walk across the stage. I walk around in my Hawkeye. Sometimes I go to the cosplay contest, and me and Darth Smalley will walk up Hawkeye and Black Widow, and people are saying the stage is up there. Aren't you in this contest? I'm like, no, I just want to see the cool costumes. They're like, you are in the cool costume. Enter. And I'm like, that's not for me. Like I said, you'll never see me behind a booth. You'll never see me waiting in line to be in the cosplay contest.
I would recommend it.
Like being with the people. I'm a man of the people. Stick me in the rabble, and that's where I belong.
I would highly recommend it because I'm not 100% sure how they do it in the States, but how they do it in the UK is everybody who's taking part in it gather together, and we're all together in one room for a little bit, and they take us out in partial groups because obviously the cons are very, very crowded. and we make a circuit of the whole place first, and then we queue up to go up on stage. And then when we're up on stage, we can either do a little quick skit where we're talking as the character for the judges. We pose 3 times and then we can back off. And it is so much fun and empowering doing that. But it takes forever to get round that con circuit because somebody wants pictures. You know, but talking with other people beforehand is great as well, because I love asking them about their costumes and saying, right, well, how did you do like the long Disney princess dress, or how did you build this big massive sword prop thing, or whatever, which is fun. Okay, in terms of taking part, would you be interested if somebody said, would you be interested in judging? Not necessarily a big con, but let's say a smaller, more intimate con. Would that be something that interests you?
Maybe a smaller con, but I'd have to turn it down, because as someone who doesn't make my own costumes, I couldn't judge someone who's spent hours stitching a dress together versus someone who's built armor out of EVA foam or Worbla. I would turn it down. I belong in the audience, clapping for everyone, because I think their cosplays are amazing. I'm not going to judge.
Awesome. In your opinion, what is the best things and the worst things that a new cosplayer can do when they're getting ready to go to a cosplay event, like a Comic-Con or that? So let's say 2 of the best things and 2 of the worst things that they can do, in your opinion.
So you're at the con floor, you're going to be walking around a lot, standing around a lot. You really want to test out that costume. Even if you don't think it requirements, go get some sole inserts, put them in your boots. You will appreciate it later. But also, you may not think posing is going to get those vines out of shape or untuck your Jedi robe, but after doing it enough and choosing different poses on the con floor, you'd be surprised at the wardrobe malfunctions. So do a mini like fight scene, pose scene, move around, jump around, and see what comes out of place. And then, I mean, get your safety pins, get your boob glue, get whatever you need, and just make sure everything stays where it belongs, because it's so much harder to do a repair on a con floor than it is. Yeah. Some places have the little hospitals, which are amazing. They're little lifesavers. But no one wants to go in search of them, and if they run out of the things that you need, running back to your hotel room is not as much of an option. So definitely test it for all scenarios, even if the scenarios you don't think that'll happen.
Do you know the worst thing? And I'm running back to my Poison Ivy cosplay as an example for this. There is a picture of me with another cosplayer who is doing an amazing cosplay, which I'll tell you about after the show, because I don't want people looking at that particular picture and going, oh, I see the wardrobe malfunction. Oh. But there is one of me where there is a wardrobe malfunction, and it's not noticeable. You know, like, thank God it's not noticeable, but it's one that I notice and I know is there, and it's one of the reasons why I love and hate that picture at the same time. It's like, I love the fact that I'm with a character that I know and I love, but I hate the fact that I'm having a wardrobe malfunction.
We know that photo would be just perfect if I wasn't so derpy. Which is another thing to prepare is your poses. Because you may feel like you're doing it right, but you need to prepare it, need to know what you look like on camera if you're going to be posing. Not the biggest deal, really, but So one thing that I've noticed is if you're doing a photo where you're looking at something or someone else in the photo, you can't actually be looking at that thing or that person. So me and Darth Smalley, we do a back to back. But if I turn my head and I actually look at her, well, my eyelids, because she's lower than me, are down. You don't see my eye. It looks like my eyes are closed. So instead of turning and looking at her, I just kind of look like right here. So it looks like I'm looking down and at her, but I'm really not at all. So that's one pose. You got to know your poses, know your angles. As a guy who didn't take a lot of selfies before cosplay, that struck me very quickly, is I don't know what my face looks like. So it took a while to get used to that. But you know, that's one thing that helps.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people tell me I need to do more of, is just doing the selfies, and I'm like, I'm not a selfie person. I'm really not. Don't like it.
But also, when you look in the mirror or take a selfie, some phones, they reverse it, but you're looking at a mirrored reflection of yourself. If you think your hair looks good to this side in a mirror, it's actually going that way, because it's your reflection.
Yeah. So moving along, let's talk about age differences within cosplay and Comic-Cons in general. When I first started going to Comic-Cons, I thought that it was going to be a very specific age group. I didn't really have much to go on. Any kind of reference point I had for Comic-Con or cosplay, it seemed to be a very, very specific age group, which was early teens to mid-30s. Like, I'd seen families doing it, but it really looked as if they were just going to a fancy dress party.
Yeah, there are some cons that are definitely more demographically targeted. Again, I'll reference Dragon Con, I'm sure Colossal Con, where it is more in that 21 to kind of upper 20s, mid 30s. These people who still can handle their alcohol, which frat boy is kind of losing that ability. But you know, most of the cons that you go to, you know, you see the kids, you see the adults, you see anyone.
I was very, very, very happy to say that I fit the early teens to mid-30s demographic. So I was like, if anything else, when I go to my first con, I will be okay, because I can then walk up to anyone from that age range and go, comic books? And have them go comic books back to me, and then I can go comic books. But when I went to the first Comic-Con I went to, I was so shocked to see so many different age groups all across the boards. We're talking babies that could not have only have been a couple of months old, to great granny parents that are 1 foot in the grave, you know, to put it politely. When you first started going, obviously your first experience was of a Star Wars one?
Star Wars Celebration, yeah.
Did you have any, obviously that would be a very specific age demographic as well, or...
Oh, not at all. Star Wars?
Well, very specific demographic, but when you first started to kind of go to cons and such, like, did you think, oh, it's going to be this age group, or did you just think, oh,
I didn't know what cons were. My first con I went to, I did not know what cons were.
So you had no preconceived notion?
As simple as I can put it, I did not know I was going to a giant hall that people would be wearing costumes. I thought maybe there'd be costumes on display from the movies, and there'd be, I don't know, like, I had no idea what a con was.
So were you kind of shocked when you maybe first seen your first little child in cosplay dressed as an Ewok?
Oh, I was shocked before I even got onto the convention floor. I was shocked when I saw a person dressed up, and then everything else was just, I mean, it was incredible.
Now, I'm going to touch on something that you touched on earlier, which is using your age, like your own current age, to define which cosplays you do. Is that something that you do by choice, or is it something that you can say, right, well, I'm this age now, so I fit more of this character?
Yeah, listen, I don't believe age, body type, gender, race should be how anyone decides to do their cosplay. if you want to race bend, gender bend, do it. Do Black Panther, even though you're pasty white. Do Static Shock. I mean, listen. Even in the movies, we changed the race of Killer Croc. We changed the race of Johnny Storm. So no, you don't really have to. But I'm a body type cosplayer. I like working on my body for cosplay. I haven't encountered a character that I would race bend yet, but I wouldn't let that define me. The age thing, I mean, Hawkeye's an old man, Anakin's practically a teen. So no, I don't really let it define me. It was just portraying a school child I thought was a little weird for Harry Potter Celebration.
That one I can kind of get, but it can also be done very successfully. I did an interview with a guy named Dan recently, who is, I think he's in his, like, I don't want to insult him, so I'm going to say I think he's in his 20s. And he's done a very successful Harry Potter, and obviously Harry Potter, like, the current actors are all in their 20s now. Yeah. So it's not that far of a stretch when you see them putting on the old costumes. But over here in the UK, when you reach a certain age, I see a lot of cosplayers doing stuff from Doctor Who, and it's their generation, you know. So it'll be like the 10th or the 12th or the 1st or 3rd Doctor. Is that something that you specifically look for when you do when you pick your cosplay? Do you go, well, I'm ages with that character?
I mean, I love a lot of characters. Something more important than age, for work, I'm not allowed to have facial hair. So I really want to do a Logan, but I can't do a Logan. I can't do Wolverine. Hopefully, you know, I'm still fairly young, I think. But in the future, I want to do an old man Logan. But of course, I'm going to do that when I'm an old man. So yeah, there are some cosplays that I'm like waiting until I'm like 40, 50 to do. And hopefully by then, this don't shave policy is overruled. A lot of companies in the area have started overruling it. Disney and Universal, they used to be very strict with it, and they've overturned it. So I hope for the future that one day I'll be able to have a beard. Because that would be...
I think there's at least one Logan that you can do, and that's touching on the animated side of things again.
Yeah.
You could always do the one with the mask, which I think would be very, very difficult to do, but not impossible.
Yeah, the X-Force Logan would be interesting, but I really like the old man Logan. I think that movie could have been done better, but I still really like the idea. And it's funny because, listen, they just came out with Old Man Hawkeye, too. And Hawkeye's a comic now, so, I mean, Hawkeye, I can cosplay forever. I mean, I'm already planning on doing the Renaissance Fair. I don't know if we talked about in this interview or the one that got deleted, but I can't wait to do a Renaissance bend for Hawkeye, and I mean that you make it your own. So
I think it was in this one because we spoke about.
When I play, I don't care about gender.
I think it might be in this one because I vague memory of us kind of maybe mentioning Gotham by Gaslight, but if you didn't, guys,
tell what we've been talking about in this interview because we don't.
Yeah, because like it's very, very difficult for us to keep track. So yes, okay. My next question for you, in terms of age differences, do you feel you get a lot of younger children like approaching you when you're doing a specific cosplay? Like we've mentioned Hawkeye and Nightwing. Do you feel you get a lot of younger kids approaching you, like screaming their head off, going, "Oh my God, Nightwing or Hawkeye"?
I did a Disney bound for Mickey's Not So Scary as Nightwing, and Mickey's Not So Scary. You know, it's an event for children, but any excuse to dress up. So me and Darth Smalley went to the parks as Black Widow and Hawkeye, and oh my God, I had so many kids running up to me, and they're like, Hawkeye's my favorite, Hawkeye's my favorite. And, they've got the little like Walgreens or like gas station bought Captain America mask, or they've got the Hulk costume on. So I get into it, I'm like, oh hey Bruce, like how's it going? Give me a fist bump, Bruce, and they're like, oh, you hurt my hand, Hulk. Oh my god. So, and hang out with Cap, I'd salute Cap and stuff like that, or I'd be like, hey Tony, how's it going? Little Iron Man would run over to me. So yeah, no, I love that kids love cosplay, kids love costume characters. I did a Rocket Raccoon once, and this kid as Hulk runs up to me and goes, "Isn't Rocket a little smaller?" And I go, "Isn't the Hulk a little bigger?" And his dad high fives me so hard. He was like, "Yeah, Burn, you got that little kid." I was like, "Isn't that your son?" And he was like, "Yeah, but he earned it. He got that disc coming." I was like, "Okay." So yeah,
So when it comes to picking cosplays, you tend to maybe pick one or two that are geared towards children.
Oh no, I pick the cosplays that I like. Spartacus is definitely not geared towards children. Viewers, do not let your children watch Spartacus. It is a lot of dirty language, blood, and sex. A lot of sex.
It's also like possibly going to be owned by the people who have done Game of Thrones. So if you're letting your young children watch Game of Thrones, which is on HBO, then you're a terrible parent. I'm sorry, but you are.
I think even Game of Thrones is like, I think Spartacus goes a little cut above it, and it's historical, so so anyway, but yeah.
I think one thing we can say is that Game of Thrones and Spartacus are like on the same level of do not let your child watch this.
In fact, anyone who's on a Game of Thrones show hole where they're like, I need it back, I'm like, yeah, watch Spartacus. Mm-hmm. It isn't back until 2019. Watch Spartacus in the meantime. It's very good.
Yeah. Damn, I didn't know what I was going to say. Age differences. Now, we've mentioned a lot about children throughout this interview, and I'm just going to put a little punctuation in it before we move on to props, the bane of every cosplayer's existence. There is a lady who I interviewed, whose interview will be coming out, I think, next month, maybe? Who was on a little show called Who Wants to Be a Superhero, which was done by the amazing comic book aficionado Stan Lee. I think he's responsible maybe for that little company that you're wearing on your t-shirt. He might be responsible for that guy.
Notice.
He might be responsible for the Hulk or for Hawkeye, So she mentioned to me that her daughter, who is only like maybe 6 at best, is very much into cosplay. And she was into it from a really early age, like we're talking maybe 4 or 5 years old. She just started kind of wanting to dress up all the time, to the point where she's actually let her daughter start to make her own costumes.
That's sick.
Yeah, which scares the hell out of me. It's like, you're letting your child run around with scissors. My parents still break out in a cold sweat when I lift up a pair of scissors, and I'm years old. So that is just fantastic, and I love hearing stories like that where the kids are so into it that they want to make their own costumes. So just ending that little note on children. So moving along, let's talk props. So props for me fall into 2 categories and then 3 subcategories. 1, it goes to a Comic-Con. 2, it goes to a photo shoot. Okay, so those are your 2 categories. Then the 3 subcategories are: 1, oh my god, this prop is so large it breaks my back and I cannot fathom how to get it out of the house. 2, this prop is medium size, but it's going to bug me if I have to carry it around for 7 hours. And 3, this prop is so nice and small it fits in my pocket and I'm good to go. Now, obviously, all props depend on what type of costume you're doing, but when you're going to a Comic-Con, which out of those 3 prop sizes are you more inclined to take with you?
So, I mean, everything behind me, these aren't props. Those are just real. I'm a sword collector, especially pieces from. I mean, I've got Gimli's axe, and then Kami katana. I've got a Kwandao, another katana. I've got a Gladius. I've got the Washikazi. I've got my broadsword, my little Viking sword. I've got some zombie things. My swashbuckling collection right here, and then the little ugly stick. Obviously, that's not a real lightsaber. But yeah, so the lightsaber is the only one that is actually a prop that I take with me onto a photo shoot or a con floor. There's no retracting the blade, so it's something that you can't just kind of like put on your hip. I do have, you'll notice on my Instagram page, in some of the photos, I just bring my hilt, which I love because I can walk around with it, and it looks, costume ready. I've added a little paint to make it look more metallic. But I can't really pose with it like I would a normal lightsaber. So, there's that. But other than that, I do the bow and quiver. And the quiver you wear on your back. People don't often bump into it. The bow is a little tough. But as long as you've got a little situational awareness, unless you're in a huge con, people aren't going to bump it. It's when you take out an arrow and string it that things get a little complicated, and security starts running after you because it looks very real. But yeah, no, I've never done anything with. I mean, a sonic screwdriver would be a nice little prop that fits in your pocket, but I've never done anything that small, and I've never done anything so big that it is actually a main focal point of the costume. So.
When it comes to props in general, do you A, make your own from scratch, B, buy them in and then customize them a little bit, or C, buy them in ready-made, or all of the above?
So the only prop that I tried to make myself was the fear gas for Scarecrow, and that didn't really work out that well. Other than that, I have the lightsaber hilt that I kind of improved upon a little. It was just a little Goodwill grab bag, child's toy that has the little retractable blade when you flick it. Added a little metallic paint to it. Then there's, this one right here, and the quiver and bow. That was from a website, Pro Cosplay. So, I buy them when I can, and if I need to, I improve upon it. But I like a ready-made prop. I'm not very crafty.
I'm actually going to show off a couple of props here. And the first one I've got to show off, which is officially not complete yet, as of the 23rd of February. It's not finished. But it is this lovely little dynamite pack that I made. All recyclable stuff, guys. I still need to finish it off. I'm missing some stuff to make it look like actual dynamite. And very easy to make as well. You just get candy tubes, paint them white, and then paint them whatever colour you want, and then just use black electrical tape on them, as well as double-sided tape to stick them all together. So hopefully that will be finished soon. My next prop here is one that is practical and one that is actually useful as well. Because whenever you're going around cons, some people like to take their business cards with them. And like 50 has said, some costumes you don't have a location to put them. So I made myself this little guy, my very amazing Jack-in-the-Box. And he's very, very practical because I can actually put things on the inside of him.
That's nice.
If his head is not in his box. But all these props can drive you mad because you're making them from scratch and you end up talking to them like they're actual people that will respond to you back. So, if you ever see a cosplayer or somebody talking to something that looks like a prop, just go up to them and tell them it's okay. You know, just pat them very carefully on the shoulder and just say it's all right. It's all right. The prop will eventually work. So my next question for you is, what is your favourite prop that you've worked with so far?
As a Star Wars fan, I love my lightsaber, especially for like photo shoots in the dark. It's just a badass thing to have on you.
Awesome. And moving on from props and such likes, my next question for you is, what has cosplay opened up for you away from being in costume?
I mean, like I said, I went to a friend's birthday party. I met him in costume. So just, you know, new friend groups. You know, I mean, the one John Rice Davies interaction that was out of costume, that was incredible. So yeah, just the people you meet.
Awesome. And my next question for you: who or what are your next 3 cosplays going to be? So, your next one that the one for your next event, one that you're currently working on for an event, maybe either later in the year or after your most recent one, and somebody that we'll see maybe late 2018, early 2019. So, who are you going to be for your next event?
So, Armored Nightwing is currently being commissioned by Parallel Life Studios. I cannot wait for that. That might be ready by MegaCon. They said the downtime on that might be 3 months. A lot of it's 3D printed, so it could be quicker than that. Something I'm currently working on, if I get into Colossal Con, I would do the pool party, Deadpool, the Deadpool party, which it would be awesome. That would be so much fun to do. And then
something that you're either thinking about or have some form of idea that we might see late 2018 or early 2019.
You know, right now I'm keeping it on just those 2. I try not to take on too many projects at once. I would love
any
to
ideas for somebody for late 2018 or early 2019?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't have a Spider-Man yet. I would love to get one from the RPC studio with the puff paint and everything. And I love some of their designs. So Spider-Man may happen later this year. He's one of my favorite superheroes. So keep an eye out for that. It just, I really want to focus on this Armored Nightwing. I think I'm going to add some things to Anakin. I'm going to add a few things to Hawkeye. I might get rid of these props and go for bigger, better ones. So right now I'm improving the ones that I have, and I have 1,000,001 ideas of cosplays, but those are really the only things that I'm actively working on.
Awesome. So my last question for you before we do the Passover is, what advice would you give to somebody who would like to start cosplaying but doesn't necessarily know where to start?
What do you like? What do you like about the idea of cosplaying? And who do you like? Find your favorite character and just, wouldn't you like to be them? And that's it. Just, you know, all the inspiration you need is right there. For me, it was, oh my god, I get a chance to be Anakin, and that was, boom, done. Like, get into cosplay. So really, like, getting into cosplay, why the hesitation? Just do it.
Awesome. So before we completely wrap up, guys, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with all your friends. Check out the other interviews on this channel, and if you have a question for myself or 50, I think there's like 50, do you see it? There's like a comment section down there.
Oh, like yeah, oh my god, is that what that is?
There it is, down there. So go and leave us a comment, and both myself or 50 will do our very best to answer your questions.
Or you know what?
Um,
Find me on
or
Instagram, Alviro, and I'm always happy to get a new follower or two, and I always answer the DMs on there. And
or if you
Shades
haven't
Cosplay
had
also out.
enough of me, you can find me on this lovely website at iGameOnline.net, where we do have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel where there is multiple other content happening. Also, there are multiple other cosplayers on that site that you can go and check out what they're doing, guys, like Alphabetty, Little Rascal, Tunafel, and Kobe Kicks for starters. And like Dan has said, sorry, not Dan, like 50 has said, you can check him out on Instagram at, sorry.
No, I don't have a site. It's just Instagram, 50 Shades of Cosplay. And I just started Vero, so
on his Vero as well. And don't worry guys, those links will be in the description of this video, so do click on them and go and support 50 as much as you possibly can. Tell him I sent you and say hello to him. Also, there are multiple links to my social media pages on the iGame website. Just check under the crew section and look for Jai452, and you can go and find me on social media and say hi to me there as well. But in the meantime, guys, I've been Jai452. 50 Shades of Cosplay has been 50 Shades of Cosplay, and this has been Inside Cosplay. We will be back with another interview really soon. Bye, guys.